Hi everybody, I'm Igor Smirnov, international Grandmaster and a chess coach. This is the lesson Finding the Best Moves Quickly. Chess players often tell me that they can find the correct moves during home analysis, but they can't find them during practical gameplay. If given enough time, these players can find the best move. The problem, however, is that in a real game you have to move quite quickly or risk losing on time. Different chess educational materials provide varied information on chess, rules, principles, ideas, and so on. On the one hand, this information can be very useful. Unfortunately, this can make your task even harder because you need to think about so many different things in such a short time frame. On average, you have only about 3 minutes per move, maybe less. This brings us to my next point. It's not enough to have basic fundamental chess knowledge. You should know how to apply this knowledge quickly. As I'm sure you're aware, strong players know some practical methods of how to do this. In this lesson, I would like to share some of these conservation methods with you. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. First of all, you should plan to budget your time prior to the beginning of a game. Maybe this seems obvious to you. Okay, then I have some questions. For example, how long you should think about every move when you have 2 hours for a game? Or what about a 30-minute game or a blitz game? Can you give me a concrete answer? If you're unsure, let's think about it together. An average game consists of approximately 40 moves. Of course, it can be much longer or shorter, but we're talking about an average. Therefore, if you have 2 hours for a whole game, it's 2 hours divided by 40 moves, and it'll be 3 minutes per move. By the way, the standard time control 90 minutes plus 30 seconds per move gives you approximately 3 minutes per move also. So, you can easily figure out how long you should think about every single move in a certain game. Of course, this is only an approximate rule, however, it gives you a guideline. Okay, let's go to the next principle. You should know when to think during a practical game and when to make moves quickly. There are 4 principles to think about here. And here is the first one. In the opening, you should play quickly. The opening is the easiest stage of a game, really. As I hope you know, in this stage you mainly need to develop pieces. You should simply realize 3 main tasks of the opening. If you studied my course The Grandmaster Secrets, you should know what I'm talking about here. So we may conclude that in the opening you should play quickly and save your time in case complications arise at the later stages of the game. It's better to make a few superficial moves in an opening than to blunder late in the middle game and time trouble. Here is the second advice. At the end of the opening, you should take some time to think and compose a plan. Most chess players have heard this, however, often they don't follow this advice anyway. And the bottom line is this. If you have a concrete plan, you will make the following moves quickly. If you haven't got a plan, then you have to think for a long time about every single move. Let's observe some examples. It is White's turn here. And now it's time for White to think of and compose a middle game plan. White's plan here is to attack the d6 weakness. Thus White needs to double rooks on the d file and put the bishop on this diagonal. Maybe it will take some time to compose this plan initially. Once you have the plan though, you will then make a lot of moves quickly. This method is very effective practically. In the game that followed, a4, queen c7, rook a2, white is preparing doubling rooks on the d file, then b3, bishop a3, so white is just realizing his plan, and rook a d2. So white got a better position, and in the end he won the game. Here is another example, and it's the white's turn again. It's the end of the opening stage, and here white should compose a plan. White has a pawn majority on the queen side, and a c-pawn without a counterpart. So white's plan is to realize these positional advantages. So he played c4, bishop g6, rook c1, supporting the c5 advancement. Knight c5 takes, b4, realizing his pawn majority, rook c8, queen b3, supporting his pawns and maybe eventually attacking the b7 pawn somewhere in the future. Well, I'm not saying that you should make such moves without any consideration. However, it will be much easier for you to find a good move quickly if you focus the attention solely on the realization of your plan. The game continued bishop d6, rook fd1 supporting the pawns, and in the end white was able to utilize his passed pawns in the center. It's important to take note of the idea that you not only could, but you should play quickly after you have composed the plan. You need to compensate the time that you have spent on composing the plan initially. Here is the next idea. You should calculate variations in tactical positions and think in general in strategic positions. One of the biggest problems that plagues modern chess players is that they always calculate variations. It takes a lot of time and effort to do this, and often it doesn't help to find the best move. Therefore, you should focus your attention on calculation only in tactical position. What do I mean with a tactical position? Let's look at a concrete example. It's black's turn here. This position is quite calm and simple. There are no forcing lines or tactical variations here. Thus it's rather strategic position, and black should think here about general motifs, plans, maneuvers, and so on. Black played knight a7 to transfer the knight to the battle square, and knight b5, then rook a2 h6, g3. These moves didn't require calculation. There was no reason for black to calculate anything. Either for white, by the way. This brings us to a new question. When it's time to calculate? Here is the rule. You should start calculating when there is contact between your pieces and your opponent's pieces, or when you're going to